Welcome to My Comic Shop History. I am your host, Anthony Desiato. We are continuing our exploration of the world of collecting with something that has taken the hobby world by storm, Funko's Pop vinyl figures, or Pops for short, something that has captured my interest and likely the interest of some of our listeners. So we'll be examining toys generally through the lens of Pops. I'd like to introduce my guests. To my right, we have Stephanie Chow, soon to be Stephanie Desiato. Welcome, dear.
Thank you. It's great to be here, dear.
And across from me, I'm really excited to bring in another new voice to my comic shop history this season. Chris Wilcock is the owner of Undiscovered Realm in Hartsdale, New York, which is the home of the largest selection of Pops I have ever seen. So I'm really excited. I'm really excited to talk to you. Welcome, Chris.
I'm glad to be here.
So as I said to you before we officially started recording, Steph and I have been really excited to talk to you because we've gotten really into Pops over the past year and a half.
I think a little bit more, maybe a little bit more than a year.
For me, it started, there was a comic book convention at the Westchester County Center a couple years ago, and I bought a Superman Pop. Superman's my favorite character.
Oh, cool.
I wasn't planning on getting into Pops, but it was just something Superman, and I was like, it's cool. It was
How they get you.
It was $10. I was like, this will be great. So I brought it home, and it didn't really, nothing really took off quite yet. It took a little bit of time.
Right.
I think what really pushed us over the edge was we picked up the Rick Grimes from Walking Dead Pop. Walking Dead's one of our favorite shows, cool. And then it just kind of grew from there. First it was, we'll just get the Walking Dead Pops, and then it expanded to a lot of the other shows that we like. It's still mainly TV-centric as far as what we get.
Yes, mostly TV shows.
So before we came, I did a quick rough estimate of how many we have. Nothing crazy. We're still under 100. I think we're around 90. And what are some of the shows that we have the Pops for?
So we have Orphan Black, Sherlock, and
a
few variants of Sherlock himself, and then all the supporting cast members. And I noticed on the wall right now there's a Moriarty variant with his king crown on.
I think that's the coolest one, honestly.
It's a very nice one. We don't have any crowns yet in the collection.
We might be making some purchases before we leave here today.
We'll work it out.
But yeah, Supernatural, Arrow, Flash, all the DC TV ones, Gotham. So we've really gotten into it just to kind of describe the scene for people. I mean, I'm staring at a massive wall of Pops. I mean, Chris, would you mind just kind of giving us roughly how many do you have? What sort of dimensions are we talking here?
I would say it's it's 10 feet, maybe 12 feet high. I'm over 6 feet. I'm 6'3", and I can't even get remotely towards the top. So I'm going to say 10 to 12 feet tall and about 20 feet long, and probably 800 to 1,000. And this is what we carry in the store. We do a lot of conventions, so we have a whole trailer that's just filled with a lot of other stuff. And we do our best to try and keep everything in the store as well, but there's always stuff that we can't fit in the store, so it's not even our full selection. So it gets overwhelming, and I personally, and the guys here as well, we try to curate the wall as well as possible. One thing that drives me nuts is, and I think also besides the selection that separates us from a lot of the big box stores, is we don't just throw them up. And I think it makes a big difference because if you come in and you want Star Wars, we have 50 different Star Wars ones, but they're all together. I even try to put the good guys with the good guys and the bad guys with the bad guys. And same figures with their exclusive versions next to them, things like that. And I think that makes a big difference because people can come in. They don't have to look for an hour to try and see if we have it. They know right away if we have it. They can ask us. We know. And if you go to an FYE or something, they literally, it'll take you an hour to just dig through the figures because they just put a wall of them 10 deep, and it's insane. It's it makes me not even want to check. So I think that goes a long way.
Yeah, it's a staggering selection and really eye-catching when you come. And you don't even have to come in, though. That's the interesting thing, and I'm sure this is by design. But, you could be driving by at night especially, and you can see that wall of Pops from the road.
Yeah, and during the day, for those of you who don't know, we're right on Central Avenue, which is a major, road. So traffic builds up during the day around rush hour, and I will look out the window sometimes and I just see people staring in, or if we're having a big tournament, they just have this puzzled look on their face, what is going on? And sometimes people just walk in, they're like, I gotta ask, I drive by here every day, I just had to come in to see what the hell is going on. And especially at 4 a.m. or something, if there's 40 people in here, they're For the first year we were open, I thought the cops were just going to like think we were like selling drugs or something because we were just open all night and like hanging out and like playing cards. But then they started coming in and buying stuff.
So it works.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. Well, so speaking of the location, yeah, you are on Central Avenue. You're just a few minutes from the former site of Alternate Realities.
Yes.
You are mere steps away. I told you just this the other day. You're mere steps away from where I went to elementary school, Sacred Heart. It's funny. I don't remember what this place was when I was going to school here, but it's cool that you're here now.
It was a printing press. That's what a guy came in here one day. He's like, I worked here for like 10 years. It was, in the printing press. And he was like, it's so crazy to see it, it's something else. But that's all I know. I'm sure there was other stuff, but...
So speaking of the people who might drive by and be like, what is going on in there?
Yeah.
For anyone listening, I suspect most listeners of this podcast are probably familiar with what pops are. But if anyone isn't, I mean, how would you describe them?
They're, little figures. People often mistake them with like bobbleheads or something like that. They're a lot nicer looking than bobbleheads and more well sculpted. But that's the closest kind of comparison I think you can make to like, somebody doesn't know what it is. But they're only starting at like $10. So like you said before, it's there's something for everyone, and the price point is so great that it anybody can get one and have something they like because there's just so many different ones. And I think that's the recipe to why they blew up like they did.
And they're so cute, even the villains.
They are, and they've gotten better and better. And I think that's another thing. Like you said, you guys started about a year and a half, 2 years ago, and I think that's when a lot of people got in. I'm a huge toy collector, and when they first started coming out, I thought it was a cool idea, but the quality on them was not great, and they just didn't look the best. And I kind of was like, I wrote them off. They started to get a little better, and we started carrying them. We got in. I don't want to say we got in at the very ground floor, but not that far afterwards. And that's kind of what also helped us to build up to the point we are, with having such a selection and things like that. But now those pops, though, that first came out are hundreds and hundreds of dollars because they sucked and nobody bought them. So there's none out there. And it's really funny. Like one of the guys that works here, he was trying to get the whole Sonic the Hedgehog collection. The Sonic the Hedgehog pop literally looks like it's melting. It's the ugliest thing I've ever seen in my life. And it's like $300, $200-something because you can't find it. And it's just funny to me.
But it's funny because you mentioned the ones that have kind of gone up in value. Yeah. So I'm a huge Rocky fan. I'm wearing a Mickey's Gym T-shirt. But I love Rocky, and I know those early ones. I looked them up on Amazon. Like, they're really expensive. Yep. We briefly mentioned this before, the Power Ranger ones. So we have the original white, pink, and red Rangers that came out. And we were at the comic book convention that you organized, Undiscovered Realm Comic-Con, just a few weeks back. And we were speaking with the actor who played the second Red Ranger. He was a great guy.
Yeah, he's super nice.
And he was telling us how much in value they've gone up, and we had no idea because we paid. Yeah, you got them for me as a gift, right?
Yes.
They were nothing crazy when you got them, right?
Right, between $10 and $15
2 years ago, you could find them on any shelf. You know what I mean? And now they are not.
So what are they going for now?
The White Rangers, hundreds now. I want to say like 2 to. I haven't checked in a couple weeks, and that's enough time really for it to maybe be pushing 300. The glow in the dark one is like $900 now.
Oh my god,
it's crazy, yeah. And the red and the pink are probably in the 200 range, and they were only even I would say 2 months ago around 80. So they're going. What happened is they got retired, and everybody wants them, but they got the license back, and they're making all the other ones.
Yes.
So now again, going back to being a completionist, you want the set. You got to pony up. And also, this is another thing we can touch on. Just toy collecting in general around springtime, when people start getting their tax refunds, things go through the roof on like harder to find stuff because people start to have disposable income. And the thing that they've been eyeballing all year, they're like, all right, now I have some cash, I'm going to buy it. And when there's 1,000 people trying to do that, and there's 100 of them on the market, obviously that's what happens, and it happens every year with all collectibles.
Not that we've been having that much of a debate about it. I mean, we're on the same page with it, but we've really been wrestling with, do we try to sell the Power Ranger ones? Because for me, there's a huge nostalgia factor. I mean, I love Power Rangers growing up, and so it was so cool, and they were a gift from you. And as Chris, as you mentioned, they're coming out with the rest of them. So now it's like I'm really torn, because it's not a small amount of money, if they're going for that much.
No, it's not.
But I don't know. Any
What's
advice?
Your advice?
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you like my personal philosophy. I try to collect certain. I'll use. This is a perfect example. A few years back, Mezco released these awesome Goonies action figures. I got them all. They were like $15 a piece. And now the set is worth somewhere. It's only 5 figures, like $500+. And I saw that, and the Pop Goonies came out. So I was like, all right, I'll sell these. I got my $400 I got for them or whatever it was, and I bought the Pop figures for $50. And now those have gone up to like 30 to 50 a piece, and even more. And and that's kind of what I do with my collection. Like there's certain things I'll probably never get rid of, but I like to own something from the different things that I like. So, but that's the great thing about toys. You can buy. Everyone thinks, oh, you're just wasting your money on toys. I laugh at them every time because it's worth so much more than like half the crap people invest in. And you get to enjoy it for a few years, and then you get something else from the same series and get to enjoy it for a few years. Maybe you never get rid of it. Maybe those go up too, and you get the next thing that comes out, and you're just you're actually making money off it, enjoying it, and constantly evolving your collection. And that's generally what I do. I will tell you, I had a White Ranger myself, and I forgot that it was vaulted, which we'll get into. That means when they like retire them.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, they're probably gonna, as soon as I saw them get the license, they're gonna make another White Ranger. And I was like, let me lock in my value now. It was like $80 at the time. Stupidest thing I did. And I usually don't make stupid mistakes like that with toys because like I actually do this for a living, and even I screwed up. So it's very possible. I would say hang on to them for a little while longer. They're not going to go down in the near future. And once the other ones come out, actually, then you're going to probably see another price increase because people are going to be like looking at the 4 on the shelf and be like, all right, I got to get the other ones.
This has been an ongoing discussion for us, and that brings up definitely one of the points we were talking about, where this new series is coming out. So is that going to decrease the value because now they're going to re-release? But it seems like it's only making them more valuable because people now want the whole set.
Yeah. So one thing you can always check is once something's vaulted, that's what Funko uses as a term for retiring them or putting them out of production. They've only unvaulted something once, and it was a couple Star Wars figures, and they haven't done it since. And I don't know if that's something they're going to continue to do. They did put them out in a limited amount, and that's something. If they do it properly and control it, they don't just print 1 million and unvault something. Sometimes it doesn't affect the price at all because the collectors still want the original. They changed the box, so people still want the original release and things like that. But I haven't seen them unvault anything since. So if it's on the vaulted list, it's almost guaranteed to maintain its value, unless the whole pop market crashes. Which is always a potential thing, but I don't think that's happening anytime soon.
That actually was one of the things that I wanted to ask you. I mean, do you see these as like a passing fad, or do you think these have the staying power? I mean, as someone not only who owns the store, but you just given your history as a collector and following this stuff.
Everything has its height, and things. I've seen things maintain. I've seen things peak and then crash horribly. I think this is one of those things that everything has its height. It's impossible to maintain that forever. I don't think this is something that's going to completely fall off a cliff and crash. Everybody loves it's the new Beanie Babies. That's like the key term. And, what I always tell them is it's not, the cultural phenomenon of it is almost the same, but, it's not like Pink Cat #7 and blah, blah. It's Batman, it's Power Rangers, it's Star Wars. Those things are always going to have some inherent value to people. And, they're cool, just like action figures would be or something like that. So I think for that reason alone, they're always going to be worth something, especially, like Disney, things like that. There's, aside from pop collectors, there's people who just collect everything Disney, everything DC, everything Marvel. So you have so many fandoms involved that it's kind of hard for it to do that.
Well, Steph, it's interesting because you, in preparation of this, and without me asking, you did a good bit of research on the history of Pops and their appeal. So what were some of your findings?
Yes, so one of the main appeals that they were talking about is because, as I mentioned, that they're so cute. And there was a discussion a bit about what makes them cute and why people are attracted to things that are quote-unquote cute. So those main features of the big eyes, no mouth, big head in relativity to the body, and some of those features just like either puppies or kittens and babies especially. So that instinct, they think, I'm not an expert in this field, but some of the experts do. There's been research on, why people are attracted to things that are cute, and it could be because human babies have no ability to care for themselves from a young age, like other animals in the wild do. So this natural instinct for an adult human to be attracted and want to be with or take care of something that is quote unquote cute might be an evolutionary or, adaptive feature specific to humans. And I guess that is one of the appeals. Like, I think I remember when Anthony first told me about these pop figures and that they were, coming out in all different designs. And I think he did describe them as, they're very cute. And they are, and they continue to be. And those specific features really, I think, have captured the hearts of many people, as well as just the interest in the various shows and movies.
I'm sure that has a whole lot to do with it. And I'm sure they have like a whole crack staff over there, like, researching those type of things, that's unfortunately, it is a business, I guess, at the end of the day. So I'm sure they, I don't want to say they prey upon that, but, they have to factor that in. But I definitely, I see people all the time and, you say cute, but, when we do conventions and stuff, I see people come into the booth. Oh my God, this is so cute. Oh, this is so, and I probably hear that word more than almost anything else, so it's funny you mentioned that. But that definitely, I think, attracts people. That combined with, like we said before, like, there is something for everybody. You will say, I'm sure there's nothing I want. I mean, they have 16 candles. The Golden Girls are coming out in like a month. And, you'll have, the Golden Girls. I've had more people ask for those than almost probably anything that we've ever had before. Like, and people who don't collect pops, they're like, I'm going to need a set of the Golden Girls. I'm like, all right, yeah, no problem.
Yeah, I mean, I know a big thing for us has been the fact that, like I said, most of our collection is focused on the television shows that we like, and Pops might be the only thing that you can collect from that show. I mean, certainly, I mentioned Walking Dead. There's a lot of Walking Dead stuff, but, something like Orphan Black. Yeah. I don't know how much merchandise there is for that, but it's like we have all the Pops. Once Upon a Time is another one. Yep. So, that's definitely something that's been an attraction for us, for sure.
I personally, own a lot of those like random one-offs because, I've been waiting for stuff forever, and it's nice to, like Bill and Ted's like one of my favorite movies ever, and they're finally putting those out in a couple months as well. And there was only the cartoon figures from back in, the 80s and early 90s, and, they're worth a ton of money now. So if you want something Bill and Ted, you've never been able to, and that's a huge cult classic, and now finally you can, so it's a perfect example, and there's hundreds of things like that. So it is really nice to, and that goes back to what I was saying, like, I just want to own something from each of my favorite things, and it's nice to be able to finally do that.
So is your business mostly, do you think it's disproportionately more comic book fans that are coming in for, recent or classic Superman, Batman things, or is it a lot of, okay, I'm looking for 16 candles or Friends I see on the wall, things like that are a little bit more obscure?
Yeah, there's a good mix of everything, I'll be honest with you. There's definitely the people who are super into comics, and I would say, going to the comics thing, with everything comic related in the last couple of years, I think it's more the fans of the movies than even the comics anymore. I think, there's obviously a lot of comic fans out there, but that's eclipsed anything. So that's brought so much awareness that, you have like these parents and children coming in that want these things that you would never assume they'd want, and really obscure thing. So there's that, but then there's the people who literally are just like, oh, I love Friends so much, I just want the set of Friends Pops. And then there's a lot of people that are hardcore collectors that will buy as a gift. That they make a great gift because if you don't know what to get somebody and their favorite show is Friends, like, this is the best thing. I can spend $50 and get them the entire set. And so there's a lot of that, and and it goes back into, it's almost like you're sucking them in too, because now they have those 5 Friends sitting on the shelves. I'm like, I really like these. What else do they make? And then that's when it's over. I joke all the time that Pops are like the gateway drug of collecting, because they are. For $10. I'm used to. I was a big blind box collector, which, for those of you who don't know, they're little boxes with figures in them, but you don't know which one you're going to get. They'll revolve around a theme. It's not like you're just getting a random character or something, but and those are sometimes $10, $12 a piece. And, I had no problem buying those forever. So for me to get a nice sized figure, I know what I'm getting. It's nice. It goes up in value. For $10 is a steal. High end toys can be hundreds of dollars. That's why I laugh. Like, people come in and buy 30 Pops at a time, and people are like, how can you do that? But like, people, they'll buy, Hot Toys for $500 or $600 at a clip, and that's 60 Pops. So it's not that crazy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I was never a huge toy collector. Like, I had action figures as a kid, but I played with them.
Yeah,
it wasn't so much that I was collecting them. And then as I got older, I got more into statues. Yeah. And as far as prices go, the most recent statue I bought was the first one I had bought in a long time, but it was the Green Arrow Black Canary one that DC put out recently. That was $250.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, yeah, you could buy a lot of pops for
Yeah.
that.
You know, literally, 25 pops, you know.
Wait, it
and
was
so,
how much?
I got a discount. Don't worry.
yeah. I know all the time. People come in like, don't tell my wife. We bought a giant collection about 2 weeks ago, like huge. It was probably retail like $12,000 worth of pops, and it was huge. A lot of really high end stuff and like rare stuff. And the guy came in and I was like, why are you selling it? Because there's always a story behind it, And he's like, I just can't listen to my wife anymore. Like literally, that was it. It's taking up too much space. Like they're just in the corner. He's like, my kids are literally crying because they love them so much, but like I just can't. I can't listen to the wife, And obviously, you're cool. You collect, But and there are a lot of couples come in, which I've seen more with this than any other collectible ever, because they both like them, and it might be going back to that cute factor thing again, or the natural, love of things that look like they need to be cared for. And I really do think that's a great point, because I've never seen that before with the collectibles. It's always like the wife standing there, and I don't mean to overgeneralize, but I see it constantly,
Yeah, no, I mean, I can attest to that. Years of working at alternate realities, there were some female customers, not that there weren't any, there were some, and then of the male customers, there were some significant others who came in and they were cool with it. There were others who, not so much. I mean, there were definitely customers who were like afraid as they were sitting there, getting their books. But yeah, no, I mean, I really do want to stress that it's not like I collect these and you're kind of, reluctantly coming along. I mean, this is something we both got into together. And I would argue, I think you're more into it than I am.
Yes, I think you tend to restrain me a bit from making some of the purchases. Like you've mentioned the Fish Mooney. I'll never forget that, or forgive you for not letting me get Fish Mooney. It's probably going to be worth so much money in the future.
It's not. I told this story on the first episode this season, but we were at Midtown Comics a few months ago, and they had just gotten in the Gotham ones. Yeah. And we watched the show. Fish Mooney, not my favorite character. But they had all of them, and I said, well, let's just get the ones that we want. And you were like, yeah, but then we're not going to have the complete set. And I was like, but it's okay. But I said we could get it if you wanted it.
But I said, no, that's okay. We'll just get the 5.
It's it's a dangerous territory getting into. That's a great point, and that's something I've personally struggled with forever. And I think Pops broke me out of that, which actually has been nice. With anything I've collected over the years, I was always a completionist. I needed to have everything. If there was a variant, I had to have the variant, and blah 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 blah. And it was hard. And when the Pops started coming out, I started collecting like little sets. So like Beavis and Butthead, easy. Doc Brown and Marty, easy. But once like the bigger lines started coming out, I was like, this is hard, especially with the exclusives and the variant. You can go crazy because some of them are hundreds of dollars before you can even get them. San Diego Comic-Con stuff, things like that. So I started to become more selective, and I'd be like, okay, I really like, I don't know. I'll use Friends as an example. I don't have those, but I love Chandler. Let me just get Chandler, And it's really helped a lot, and I've noticed it spread to my other facets of collecting as well. But there are the people that, they just need to have everything. And I don't think it's actually possible with these. It's just not, So, that's the thing. I'm sure there's a guy. I ask this all the time. I've never seen it online, but I feel like there's got to be a guy out there who has every pop ever.
There has to be.
Yeah. But I don't know where he's keeping them or what he's doing, And that's the other thing. They do take up space, So does every collectible. But, that's the eternal struggle. Like the out-of-the-box collector, the in-box collector, So what do you guys do with them? Do you take them out or you keep them in the box?
We take them out of the boxes, but we have all of the boxes.
Yes,
Thankfully, in Anthony's most recent move, we debated throwing out the boxes because we had trash bags of just boxes. So we said, I don't know. We said, let's just keep them for now. That's fine. We have space for them for now. And yeah, now that we've seen what's happened with the Power Rangers, we're very thankful that we did.
I could tell you a good story about that, actually. I also own a big tattoo shop in White Plains, and all the guys there are big, they're big comic book fans. They're big collectors, toy collectors. They're artists. They're very well in the same area as us. And they have giant pop collections, and we have them. They all have them on their stations at the store. One of the guys there had at least 100, and he went away for a week, and we took them all out and put them in each other's boxes. Like literally, we took the plastic inserts and just and it took him like a day before he realized, and he just looked at it, and he stared at it for a few minutes, and he's like, all right, and he took them out of the box and threw all the boxes away, and that was not the intention at all. It was just a joke. I would have helped him sit there and put them all back. It was just we just wanted to see how long it would take him to notice, and he was like, whatever, I should have done this anyway because he was running out of space. Now he is, flash forward 6-7 months later, trying to purchase all those boxes back. There's actually a group on Facebook with that just sells boxes and stuff. If you have a damaged box, and there's people who throw them away, so they'll just sell the boxes.
Right.
And he's like, I saw him post the other day looking for Ghost Rider, but Ghost Rider was $10 at the time. It's like $130 now. So yeah, keep your boxes. I do exactly what you guys do, and I actually started just always keep the plastic things inside too.
Yes.
But I tips for you guys out there. This actually works really well. I take the plastic piece out now. They stack pretty well, and then I take the boxes and fold them flat. And I was able to get like one decent sized bin with probably 200, 150 pop boxes and protectors in that one bin, as opposed to like 10 bins that they were in before. It saves so much space. But do not throw your boxes away. I take them out too, because there's a lot of people who come in and they're like, I'm not taking them out. I love these for that reason, because if it's an action figure, I don't open it. I keep it sealed on card, whatever. With these, I can take them out, and if I want to put them back in, you would never know that they were out, and I think that's awesome. So it lets you save space and keep them complete. So, don't throw away your boxes, because there's a million horror stories just like that. Chris Delando, right?
Yep.
Has he ever told you the story about his green arrow?
No.
Okay, so he got the metallic green arrow, and he threw the box away. It was given to him as a gift, so his rationale is, I'm never going to sell it. Fine. We all say that. But, sometimes something happens, you need to sell it, He threw it away. It is now, I think, about $800 to $900, and he has no box for it. So let that be a lesson to you.
Well, it's, like you said, we had that, that discussion about whether we should get rid of them or not. My training as a statue collector, it's like, no, you got to have the box, because if you ever want to sell these. And I guess our thinking with these was, we probably wouldn't sell them, but again, you never know for sure. And we don't have so many yet that we're overflowing with the boxes. So I am glad that we kept them. Again, in case we ever do decide to part with the Power Rangers ones or any others that might go up in value, it's good that we have them. The display aspect, that's something we've tried a bunch of different things. So I guess tips for anyone out there, at the Container Store, they do have these, I think they're called like doll collector boxes, doll display boxes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Are you talking about like the plastic cubes that literally like they go
No,
inside?
No, they're like rectangular. They're like rectangular plastic
just to
boxes.
Put in and you put them up.
Yeah, and they have different levels. So there are these black bars that you can stack.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So we did those for a little while. You can't fit too many though in one. But
maximum
now
4, I think we've ever.
Yeah.
Was the most.
It was a little tricky, but now we found what I think is going to be the one that we stick with. Also at Container Store, the floating shelves.
Those are great. I've tried everything. I'll be 100% honest with you. Container Store is great, but some of the stuff's a little pricey. So when you start getting big collections, it does add up. I've seen people do everything. One thing that people do a lot online, similar to what you were doing at first, is Michael sells baseball bat cases.
We have those too.
Yeah, they fit perfectly in there, but it starts to get. They always have buy one get one free and stuff like that. So
that's how we got them.
Yeah, you can get them for a decent price. Those look great, but again, if you have hundreds of pops or even 100, like it's going to get expensive. What I do is I have Detolfs from IKEA, or I have a above TV stand. So mine, for instance, I have probably about 140 above my TV, and I use Container Store also sells these plastic cubes. I think they're meant for like gems and whatever. I use those as risers, and I put the first row, then I put a row of the cubes, put them on top of that, so they tier perfectly. Then 2 cubes a row, and I have about 6 or 7, and then across the top of the shelf, I use those floating shelves, just like almost to the ceiling, like right below the ceiling for another row. It looks really great, and it's a little cheaper. And one thing I learned is the cubes that they sell there for like $3 a piece are the exact same thing that they used to use for Beanie Baby cases back in the day. And I found like comic stores that, older ones that are literally have thousands of Beanie Baby cases that they've been sitting on for the last 15 years, and they sell them for like 20 cents a piece just to blow them out. So it's the exact same thing as $3 or $4 at the Container Store. So if you look online and find Beanie Baby cases, it is the absolute best way to display them. It's cheap. And it really does look great. And a single Detolf, which is like the standard case, I guess, for collectors from IKEA, is like $60, and it holds, I think, about 80 pops per Detolf, and they look really great. And you just do them tiered, just like I said, and they really look nice. You can put a light in there.
I think that actually could be good as opposed to buying more and more shelves and installing them into the wall.
I'll send you guys a picture because it does look cool, and like people come over and they're like, yeah. And going back, my wife hates it. because it's over the TV. So she's like, every time I go to sleep, I have like 1,000 eyes staring at me, like, and she's not happy about it. We'll move hopefully sooner than later, and I'll have I'll have a basement or something. I'll have all my collectibles. She'll never have to look at them again. But she's cool with it. But she definitely always complains about the eyes.
I don't know if I could have them in the bedroom.
Yeah.
They're in the family room right now. So
yeah, no, I get it. It was my room before we got together, and so it's kind of just set up like that until we move, unfortunately. So. But I understand, I'm not trying to, be like, you have to look at these things. But like right now we have no choice. But it's just funny. Everybody else is like, oh, the eyes are so cute. And she's like, I hate these fucking eyes.
I mean, placement aside, how does she feel about them generally?
I don't think she cares. I think she likes some of them. I don't think she gets the collecting thing, But she's one of those people that just doesn't accumulate possessions so much. So I think she's just not the best example of, the dynamic of most relationships, because there's a lot of, and I'm not trying to generalize women and be like, oh, they have a shoe collection or a bag collection, but there's a lot of women out there that do, and they don't think twice about buying their 80th pair of shoes. But then if you come home with another $10 pop vinyl and you have 50 of them, they're like, what are you doing? This is stupid. And it's it's the same thing, and to each their own, and they should be able to collect their shoes, and we should be able to collect what we want to collect. And
how do you
vice
feel
versa.
about women who collect shoes and pops?
I'm sure there's probably a lot,
You're looking at one.
Yeah. I love collecting, so I get it. What you could collect, candy for all I care. I understand it, and I joke, it's a disease. It's a disease. It is. But there's I personally, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do anything. And I have people all the time, they're like, how do you have money for all this, and blah blah blah. And I had a friend come in, and he's like, oh man, there's so many pops I want. I wish I could afford these things. And I'm like, well, you smoke a pack and a half of cigarettes a day, so every week you go buy about 7 or 8 of these. And he's like, are you serious? Blah blah blah. When you break it down for them, or a night out at the bar, people blow $100, $200 just to be sick the next day. You know what I mean? And I have that. That's 10 pops, and I have them the next day when I wake up. They're still there, and they accumulate in value. And that's the thing. And like I said before, you sell those, you get something else that goes up, and before you know it, 5-10 years go by, you have a huge collection, and you might have not even paid that much money, and people don't think about that type of stuff, but it really is.
They do make great gifts. We joke that we would that would be our thing. Whenever we had to get a gift for somebody, we'd give them a pop. But we thought people might get a little sick of that. But
it's only worked with my niece so far.
But they do make a great gift, and you could put it on a desk.
They really
put them anywhere.
They really do. Even if you have 1 or 2 at your desk at work is a great example. Or at home. They're small. You put them anywhere. They are. I really think they're the best gift. They're literal stocking stuffers, but all year long, and it's great.
When we started with this, we made the decision that we wouldn't buy online unless we really couldn't find it, because we like the idea of, if we happen to, pass by a comic shop, or not even a comic shop, we found them in all kinds of places, that we would just kind of go and see if they're there. Why are you laughing? What?
When he says we,
we both decided.
Sweeping proclamation.
No. If it wasn't for you, there'd be boxes coming every day.
If it wasn't for online, you wouldn't have the Power Rangers ones.
That's true. Yeah, we have gotten some online, but I don't know. Again, just sort of the thrill of the hunt, I guess.
We
just thought it'd be more
completely. Believe me.
But you've kind of killed that for us, because now it's anytime we want one, we're like, well, Chris probably has it.
That's true. But there's things. Going back to my wife, she's a nice girl. I don't want to make it sound like but she hates it, because whenever we go out, I'm like, let me just check Target, let me just check Walmart, let me just check, because you never know what you're gonna find. And I collect a lot of action figures too, and it's like, oh yeah, and that's the thing. I could go online and just order it, but I say this all the time, the thrill of the hunt. There's no better feeling than I've been looking for this for 6 months. There it is in the wild. Anybody can just go on and order it, and it's just, it feels so good, and it really is part of the collecting bug, I think. So I'm glad to hear you say that. I've been looking for this one record since I was a kid, and I've never seen it, in the stores. And I now with eBay and all that, you can find anything at any time, but I just refuse to do it. I want to find it in the wild one day, because looking for it for 20 years, that feeling is going to be real great when I finally, find it.
What record is it?
The Smashing Pumpkins, Melancholy, but then on vinyl. and they never released it in America. So like, and I'm always digging through like UCD stores because you never know, you know. And I know one day I'll find it and it'll be the best feeling ever. So I love that.
No, preferably, yes, finding it in the wild, going on the hunt, going into when we're in the city, different toy shops or random like grocery stores. They'll have a selection of pops.
So
we'll always go in. Definitely preferable to ordering it online. For the most part, we've been lucky where we haven't had to search for just one, other than the armored Batman.
Well, yeah, but that was a that one's a little different. That's not a generic release, you know.
The armored Batman one is funny because so there's actually going to be an upcoming episode of the podcast this season where we do a Batman v Superman debate.
Oh, cool.
Because I liked it, and I know a lot of people hated it, and I just kind of want to have a discussion on it. But we were in the Westchester at the Hallmark store.
Yep.
And they had Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, and I think they might have had the Aquaman too. And I wasn't planning on getting those pops, but for whatever reason, I was so incensed by everyone who was just piling on the hate for this movie. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to get these pops.
I will show them.
And those are the ones I got the Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. They didn't have Armored Batman. I didn't realize at the time that it was...
Yeah, it's not a normal release.
Yeah. And then when we saw you at East Coast Comic-Con. I had a table there for the podcast. You had a booth for your store. And while I was there, I saw you post that you had gotten an Armored Batman.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to go get it. And then I think we might have either you posted the price or we went to look.
Yeah.
And I think you were selling it for $50.
Yeah, I wish I still had them.
And I was like, that's a little bit too much. But that kind of, I guess, brings us to the next point or something.
Wait, how much is it worth now? Sorry.
I think like 70, 80.
Okay. So that was we should have gotten it then.
Yeah, go on. I don't want to cut you off.
I think I'm sure that was a good price given.
No, it was. And I totally get, $50 is $50, but
yeah, but it's like I don't know really what our limit is because we also saw at that con the island version of Oliver Queen from Arrow, and that was like 30.
Oh,
and it's just like
that's good too.
Yeah, and we didn't get that either.
We just had one. I think we sold. I want to say like $80, but it sold in like 10 seconds.
I don't think we realized the true value or the market value of them until recently when we started looking into the Power Rangers phenomena.
But do you Steph? I'm curious. Like, would that have changed? Like for either of those, if you knew how much they were worth, like would that have changed? Really, you would have? Because I mean,
to an extent, yes. Would it have been definitive that I would have said yes, purchase them then? No, but it definitely would have been a factor.
Well, I think there's definitely an inherent value. Like, obviously you should buy something you like because you like it, not because it's rare or not, and that's, in theory that's great, but that's not always the case. If you see something is worth $200 for $40, you're probably going to buy it. You know what I mean? Even if you hate the thing. So I definitely think like, if you're looking at it just from the collecting aspect, if you are used to a pop being worth $10 to you and you see one that you really want and it's $50, it's hard to maybe justify. But if that pop is worth $50 or $100, then it's not so hard anymore because you know your money is being spent on something that is worth that. You're not just buying something that's worth $10 for $50 because you want it. So I that makes a lot of sense to me, I think.
Yeah, I think we've been in the mindset since we've started of, okay, we're going to purchase the ones that we like and that we want to have for the fact of having it and that it's worth the value to us, whether it was $10, maybe $20. And I think that's how we started with Walking Dead. We pretty much have everything, but Anthony not being the completionist mindset that he, I think, once was, is that, there's a few random zombies that we don't have.
Yeah.
But pretty much all the other characters we have. So we've been in that mindset of, okay, we don't need everything. And yes, let's just buy them to have them for our own enjoyment, not necessarily as an investment.
Yeah.
However, now I think that's shifting because of, what we've seen happening with the market.
Sure. And that is a good way to do it. And that should be the defining force behind it, I think. You buy the ones you like. You do have to look at them. And space is a premium. You don't want to waste space on stuff that you're not going to fully love, And you can look at them as like, maybe I should buy this because it's going to go up. They don't always go up. Some do, some don't. There's some things that are been out for 3 years, they're still $10. There's some stuff that's been out for a month and it's hundreds of dollars, So it's dangerous when you start to get into that mindset of like, well, maybe I should buy them all. You know what I mean? Because, I sell the things, I should be saying, yeah, buy them all. But, I try to be honest with people. Like, don't always buy them all. But sometimes I'll tell people straight up, like, you can wait a couple months to get this one. And then I'll tell people sometimes, and I hate it because it sounds like I'm just like, spend more money. But I'm being honest with them, like, if you don't buy this now, you're going to regret it, because I'm a firm believer, and people laugh at me when I say this until they see it in action, is sometimes you lose money by not spending money. there's times where like maybe, you have $70 left and, we need to eat and, pay the bills. We all do. And you see that toy for $50 and you're like, shit, I got to be responsible and not buy it. But maybe then when you do have the money a year later, now it's $200 and you've literally, you've lost $150 by not being irresponsible at that moment. So it's a constant balance. And I say this to people and I see it all the time. Never pass something out. I've heard so many times, I should have bought it when I saw it. I should have bought it when I saw it. All the time at every convention we go to, 1,000 times a weekend. Damn it. This is $100 now. I should have bought it last month for $40.
We should have bought it when we saw it.
But that's the thing. It's like I don't know if I really regret it. And I think it depends on a number of things. I think initially, I was and still am opposed to paying that much more than the regular retail.
Well, here's the thing. So you say that like the regular retail. I agree with you. Now, let's use the Armored Batman for example. There was no regular retail in it. Right. You had to buy a $35 subscription box to get it. So what is it worth at that point? Sure, you get a shirt and some other stuff in there, but it was $35. And if you bought every box, maybe there's stuff that you don't want. And now you're wasting money. So maybe you spent $100 before you got the Armored Batman that you loved, So it's not a black and white issue, and you're not wrong. You're not wrong at all. But it's not really a clear cut issue.
Yeah, no, your point is well taken. I think it's again just my mindset of like, well, normally when we buy pops they're $10, so anything more than that, it just seems like a lot. But on the other hand, I think maybe I just didn't like Batman v Superman that much because I think there are ones, there aren't any Smallville pops. Smallville's my all-time favorite
I'm sure
TV
there
show.
Will be.
I hope so.
I'm sure there will be.
Funko
Yeah, can you make that happen?
Yeah.
But it's like that's the sort of thing where if there were a Clark Kent from Smallville in the blue shirt, red jacket, and it were 50 or 100, I don't think I'd have as hard a time.
Yeah.
I think that would be easier for me to pull the trigger.
But that means that's what you should be buying. If you're not sure about it, don't do it, I guess, and that's the thing. I personally, we keep going back to the armor. I love that figure. I'm not Batman's my favorite hero, but I'm not being a Batman completionist in pop vinyls is the worst thing you can ever do. Out of any figure, you will hate yourself because you will be buying Batmans forever for a lot of money. But that figure's really cool. It is. Are you going to New York Comic Con? Maybe.
No, we're getting married that week.
Oh shit! I got married the week after last year. That's funny. Congrats. But I was gonna say because what Funko does with those boxes is at the big shows like C2E2, San Diego, New York, they sell the ones that they have left over, and they'll sell them. They're $35 if you subscribe to it because of the shipping, $25, and they'll have the Armored Batman. I'll try and get you one. Oh. I'll keep it in mind because if they have them there, they'll sell you 10 of them, and so as a store we love that. We're like, oh, let's get them all. But yeah, so I'll try and get you one.
Well,
but that's the best way for anybody who's out there looking for the subscription ones. Wait for the big shows because you'll be able to get them from Funko. You got to wait on the line, which sucks, but
well, we told the Fish Mooney story, but that's another aspect that I find interesting with our buying habits and others as well is this idea of self-policing. So just last week we were in Disney World. Oh. If I had it for work, which was fun.
Ah, yeah, I can't beat that.
And so we were going around, and there weren't too many pops. We found some Star Wars ones, but that was about it. But we were talking about, maybe we'll find some Marvel Civil War ones. And we, or probably I, said, I don't know if we should get those because then we might want to get all the other Marvel movie ones. How did you feel about that?
I agree. I mean, even though we were both big fans of the Civil War movie, right, you can get into a slippery slope of, now that I have Captain America from Civil War, now I need Iron Man and all the rest. But then it's, okay, then should we go back to the other Captain America movies and get those versions? And the next movie, should we get those as well? So still being, I think we're somewhat still susceptible to that completionist mindset of, okay, now we should get this version and the next movie.
Yeah. But it's not like we don't have any self-control.
I've seen every collector, that gets everything, gets the one, gets, it's you need to, you said self-policing, and that's the best way. You need to know what works for you and what you're working with. If you have an unlimited amount of space, an unlimited budget, fuck it. Let's buy them all. We have a customer that has probably 800 pops at this point. And, he's got a wall, probably like we do in the store. So, but that's not really feasible for most people, so you gotta do what works for you.
I mean, I'm happy and proud, I guess, that I've been able to approach these, and we've been able to approach these, less as collectors and more casually, more as fans, not feeling the need to get everything. Because, again, I have been that way with other things, with comics, with statues, with DVDs, trade paperbacks, but pretty much everything I've collected.
Yeah.
This is probably the most casual I've been. I don't know really what to attribute it to, but I'm having more fun with this than I have with a lot of other things, because I don't feel like I have to get them all.
I think it's the price point, too. Like, when you have to be a completionist for statues at a couple $100 a piece, it's a lot harder. When you can just spend $10, like that's a sandwich at the deli or something. You don't think about it as much. So I think that's what it is, because I'm in the exact same position as you. Everything else I've ever collected, I've been like so hardcore and so stringent. And with these, I'm just like, oh, cool, I'll buy this one. I'll buy this one. I'll buy this one. And they build up after a while, don't get me wrong. But it's just, 100 pops is like one really good statue, So it's hard. For like somebody who's not a collector to listen to this conversation, they probably would lock us up. Like, you're mental. Like, you're like, oh, it's so relieving to not have to buy more, $100 toys. Like, but it really is. Like, it's so nice to be able to just be like, oh, cool, I like this one, I'll buy it.
But even though, so I guess this is somewhat contradictory, because I'm talking about how I'm more casual about it, but on the same time, I do feel the need to police us as well. Yeah. So there is that. Zach Walliner, who's been on the show before, is a friend of ours. He doesn't own any pop figures, and he is very specific about that. He's really resisting, because I think he's afraid that once those floodgates open, he's not going to be able to stop.
It's a gateway drug. It's like once you start, maybe you're like, I'll get 2, and then next thing you know, you got 100 of them, and it goes from there. They're not going to stop making them anytime soon.
Yeah, with him in particular, it's funny you mentioned Golden Girls earlier. He and his wife are big fans of Golden Girls.
That might get him.
When I saw that announcement, I sent it to him. I'm like, all right, this has to be it. You're going to get these, but he's still holding firm. Labyrinth, though, is his favorite movie.
Those are so nice. Did you see them yet?
Them?
Oh, they're coming out in like 2 months. All
right, then I think he's gonna cave.
Do yourself a favor. Look at they don't even look like pop. They look like. I would probably spend $50 on those if I saw them as if I was a huge. I like Labyrinth, but I'm not like your biggest fan. But I would instantly buy them. They are probably the nicest looking pops they've ever made. And point, that's it. They are gorgeous. Check them out. They just released the photos last week. I think they come out end of summer.
What sort of trends have you seen with the figures in terms of the way they're sold, exclusive, things like that?
I've noticed, as far as exclusives go, that's been the thing. Like, now that so many people are selling them, it's becoming a problem for the exclusives. Like, they used to, about 2 or 3 years ago, I think you had to do about $60,000 or $80,000 a year in business with them to be eligible to get your own exclusive. Then it went up to about 100. Then last time I took them 120. And then I was talking to somebody else I know who just started selling them, and their rep told them $1 million a year in business. And it's kind of hard for the small guy, as opposed to like now that everybody's selling them. Hot Topic has them, FYE has them, Hallmark has them. We're one step away from Walgreens has them. It's crazy, and that's kind of boxing out the smaller guy because now they have like 30, 40 exclusives a year. And so I've noticed that's the biggest trend, is that everybody's doing it. And it's a dangerous game, because with any company, I've seen this happen a lot, is like when they try to appease the big boxes, they kind of kill the item after a while, because they're just working off of trends. When pops aren't the thing anymore, they're gonna never sell another one. Whereas like stores like us and other comic book stores, they nurture this culture forever.
So you mentioned the store exclusive. So for those stores that meet that certain threshold, they can get a figure that's exclusive to their store. So it might be either a different character or a variation of character from the main line.
Exactly. Yeah, you can. I haven't gone through the process myself, but we're constantly like chasing that bubble, and every time we get close, it goes up. So when I talked to them about it, they said, if you want to do, you basically submit to them your idea. If you are like, I really want to glow-in-the-dark Zach Morris from Saved by the Bell, they can do that, and that could be your exclusive. And, they'll ship them to you. You get a little sticker on it that says, Undiscovered Realm exclusive. And then people can only get them from you or at a con or, whatever. Or if you have an idea and it's a new sculpt, they're open to that too, but you have to order like quadruple the amount, to make it worthwhile, because it's very expensive. So that's basically how it goes, But when you have places like a GameStop or a Hot Topic that have 5,000 stores in the country, even if they put 2 in each store, they hit that threshold, So that's the thing. That's why you're seeing like every 2 weeks there's another GameStop exclusive. Going back to the Power Rangers, like for instance, GameStop has the metallic Blue Ranger. That's a GameStop exclusive. And I'm sure they're going to do that with all the different ones. And it has the movie coin in the chest instead of the original version. And so that's basically where we're at with the exclusives.
Interesting. And then there are also, I think you mentioned this before, the boxes or the crates. Those
that's
as well?
something that Funko. So everybody knows like Loot Crate. I think they were the first ones. And then they spawned this whole industry, which is now you can get anything. I mean, there's like my wife gets like dog treats for the dogs like every month. It's cool, but they were the original ones, and every now and again they'd have an exclusive in there. So I think Funko saw that and they were like, oh, why are we doing this through somebody else? We could just do it ourselves. So they started with the Marvel one, I believe, and so it's a subscription. It's $35 a month. You get a box. It comes with a pop, sometimes 2, that you can only get in there. And then always there's a shirt, a pin, and then there's other items. Sometimes you'll get other figures that Funko makes, whether it's blind boxes or one of their other lines. And that's how it is. Sometimes they're cool. Sometimes they're not as good. Sometimes you get 2 pops and it's insane. Like the Hulkbuster is one of the coolest pops they ever made. That was the initial one from the first box, and that's the only way you could get that. Armored Batman. They just did and they can do cool stuff that you don't normally see in those, like red Snaggletooth or blue Snaggletooth from Star Wars, which that's cool for the fans. It's like a throwback. So that's like the new thing, but it's hard, if you want, now they have a Star Wars one, a DC one, and a Marvel one. So if you want each of those, you're spending $110 a month blindly, not knowing even what you're going to get.
Right.
They're always probably worth getting because, like you've seen with the Batman, like the pops generally maintain, because they cost that much to get, they kind of maintain that price point. But
right. Well, I just saw one of the very recent DC ones had the exclusive was Jay Garrick from the Flash TV show. That's something that I think we'd probably like to have. Maybe we should look into subscribing. Would you be interested in that or not? Not so much.
I think I'm more of the school of thought that I want to know what I'm going to get and pay for before it comes, but I'm open to it.
Yeah. As far as the store exclusives, do you have ideas, Chris, as far as which one, like what sort of things you would want?
I don't know. We have this conversation all the time, and I guess it's kind of situational, because what I would say now is probably completely different than I would have said 6 months ago or 6 months in the future, because it would probably be like based on market. If I had to do one right now, I'd probably do blue-haired Goku, just because that would probably be like a huge exclusive. And I'm sure somebody's already doing it, whatever. Or actually, if I had to do one right now, I'd do glow-in-the-dark Spider-Gwen. I'm a huge glow-in-the-dark guy. Anything that glows in the dark, I love, and especially like toys. And the Spider-Gwen pop's coming out in a couple weeks, and I think that one would be really big. And things like that. It's great. Like we do a lot of conventions, so it's nice to have those because it does draw people to the booths. And you talk about New York Comic Con. That's like the big one. If they put that in their flyer, New York Comic Con exclusive, you're going to have a line wrapped around your booth for 4 days, and so it does help. But I think that's what I would make right now, one of those two. But talk to me in 6 months, I'm going to tell you something totally different.
Steph, for the figures that we have, are there any variations that would be attractive to you? Like the ones that we have, like a different costume or a glow-in-the-dark feature or a different accessory or something like that?
Maybe something from either Orphan Black, because the character, well, the actress herself takes on so many different
cool.
appearances, but the characters themselves, like, I don't know, maybe Allison pretending to be Cosima or vice versa. But I don't know, maybe something like that, or Felix with clothes on.
Yeah, the bear. I was really surprised to see the bare ass
Felix.
Yeah.
That one's
it's one
really
of my favorites.
Funny.
Yeah, I was surprised though.
Yeah,
I feel
as
like
a normal release, I think they kind of like flirt with pushing the envelope a little bit here and there, but yeah, that's one of them. I mean, the Orphan Black line actually, I think they have one with the pencil stabbed in her eye. I think that's one that they've pushed the envelope. Not that that's that crazy, but you know what I mean. Compared to like these cutesy little things, that line more than anything, I'd say. American Horror Story too, I guess. I guess it just the property lends itself to that. I don't know.
For me, I don't know that that there are necessarily variations on ones that we have. I guess I would just want to see more. Just different characters, maybe from some of the shows that we have the pops for, or vehicles. So I have a lot of the Supernatural ones. can't believe they haven't done the Impala. I mean, it's such a distinct part of that show, and they've done other vehicles for other ones. So, like for me, that's something I would love to see at some point.
Yeah, as far as I know, it's not in planning yet, but I can't imagine that you won't have that at some point, because they've literally made like Scarface's car. Like, I don't know what it is with the rides. Maybe there might be other licensing issues, like they have to license it from Chevy or something. I don't know. That's probably what keeps those things from happening. Like, why is there no Millennium Falcon yet or something? Like, and that obviously doesn't have those type of licensing issues, but I'm sure that that's something that you'll get at some point. Supernatural is one of the most popular lines, and like I would say one of the ones with the most fanatical fan collectors, like where they want every single thing. We were talking about this before we started on the air. There's like, I don't know how many at this point. There's probably like 7 or 8 different Castiels, and that's the one everybody always comes for. Like, when they come to our booths at a show or something, like, do you have this Castiel? And like, I don't watch the show, so they're like really funny to me. There's one where he's like in a Hawaiian shirt, and it's like, I start joking. We have this running joke with Castiel in particular, like, oh, it's like Bad Monday Castiel, or like, like food poisoning Castiel. Like, it's literally getting to that point. So it's another slippery slope where you're like, I want more character, but they start getting ridiculous with them sometimes on the really popular lines, and then some lines they just never make the other characters, and it. I'm sure it all comes down to sales, but like, it's weird. And, and one thing you want to talk about trends, actually, I noticed recently that they started, going back to vaulting the figures. They used to just vault the line when they were done with it. Lately, they've been vaulting just select figures from lines, and it really doesn't make sense. Like, Orange is the New Black, they vaulted like 3 of the figures and not the other 4. And like some movies, like 21 Jump Street, they vaulted one of the guys and not the other one. And it's just really weird to me, like how they choose that, and I'd really like to sit down with them and then ask them that, because it's interesting.
Yeah, that is weird. We held out on the Orange is the New Black ones, because we do watch and enjoy the show, but we didn't pull the trigger on those.
Those are the ones that tend to be the best investment. I said, like, don't collect because of that, but I noticed like the fringe kind of TV shows, not Fringe the TV show, but like the lesser known ones are the ones that they get retired the fastest, and they start going up. Like Ace Ventura is like $100-something, and this one people always look for. Things like that, because they're not as popular with the mass audience. They don't make as many, and they kind of stop making them really fast. So, and with any kind of collecting, the people that the lesser known stuff have the most diehard fans, and there's no other figures for them, so they suck them up immediately, and then they're just gone, and they go through the roof. What would you guys say? Like, I know you said like Smallville would be something you'd really like to see. Is there another pop that you would?
Banshee.
Yeah, that's a great example.
They haven't made that, actually.
Yeah, I mean, Banshee's great, and unfortunately now with the show over, and it never really attracted that large of an audience.
It's hard.
I don't know that we would see those, but like Banshee would be great. How I Met Your Mother.
I'm almost positive. I would love. That's one of my favorite shows ever, and I'm almost positive we will have How I Met Your Mother before all's said and done. But Banshee would be good. That's like kind of like on the Orphan Black level of like fandom, I'd say, right? And those came out. So, but I think they don't do as well for them. So maybe I noticed like a year ago they kind of started putting out all those properties, Vikings, Orphan Black, blah blah blah. And I don't think they did that great for them, so maybe they're a little more hesitant now, is all I can say.
Yeah. I mean, again, we're big TV fans, and like we said, there, a lot of these shows you can't get anything else. So as much as I love, the DC characters in particular, it's like I have Batman statues, I have Superman statues. So for me, like, would some of them be cool? I mean, I know there are a lot already, and if there were others, would they be cool to see? Sure. But I'd be more excited for something Office, Parks and Recreation, things like that. I'd love to see pops of those.
Those are definitely probably coming too. There's a whole like cottage industry, like people making customs and stuff like that. Yeah,
that I didn't think of that specifically for this, but yeah, that's something I've come across. I think mainly looking for Smallville ones. Like I've seen some custom ones that people have done. What is your take on those?
There's some really talented people out there doing them, and it's cool. You can basically ask them for almost anything, and they even make custom boxes, so they're pretty impressive. Talking about The Office, there's another vendor that we know from doing a lot of other shows, and he's a huge Office fan. It's like his favorite thing ever, and he had a full set of all the characters commissioned from somebody, that sometimes that's what you got to do. But I think they are. I might be just making this up in my head, but I think they're making The Office. Because I think like I had that conversation with him, and he was showing me the pictures, and then like a month later, I saw them in the book, and he was like, "Damn it!" So there's always that risk, you might drop a couple $100 getting these, but they're still cool because nobody else is going to have them,
right?
But it's not as cool as like if they don't make the line at all, So. that's one danger with the customs, I'd say. But you can get. I've seen people get custom pops as wedding toppers, things like that. Actually, when I got married last year, one of the customers here, she made us custom pops of me and my wife, and she made like a little plaque for them, and it was really cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
It was probably my favorite gift that we got, and it was really thoughtful, and it's cool to have them on the shelf,
Going back, I guess, to the business side of
Sure.
it. So putting aside the exclusives and variants, things like that, when you order pops generally, are you ordering from Funko directly?
Yeah. There are distributors that also, just like you would order your baseball cards from or whatever, they've started to carry them just like anything else popular. But most of the time you're ordering from Funko directly. I think, I don't remember, I'm sure the rules have changed since we started too. You might need to do a certain amount of volume from them or, that's generally the case. But also going back to the exclusive thing, like I try to order as much as I can from them to build up our yearly volume.
And you can order individual ones, or do you have to order like an entire series?
Not the entire series, but you have to order at least 6 of the same figure at a minimum.
Oh, okay.
So like if it's Saved by the Bell, you can order just Zach, but you have to order 6 Zachs.
Okay.
That's one thing that's kind of cool with a distributor, I guess, especially for a smaller store, is there you can buy single pieces. So, and I have kind of supplemented before. Like if there's something like I'm like, I want to have it because I do try to stock everything at least once. I'll be like, let me buy 2 or 3 pieces. Our shelves hold 3 at a time of the same figure, so I'll let me buy 3 because I don't know how this is going to sell. And sometimes we get hit really hard. Like, you order these things 6 months in advance, and the TV ones, usually the show's been around a little bit, but the movie ones, you never know what to expect. Like Tomorrowland's is like but that's like the one pop that you'll find on clearance everywhere. It didn't sell at all, and like the movie looked like it was going to be a cool thing, so I didn't like order a ton of them or anything, but I ordered them like, all right, these are going to sell, and I don't think we ever sold one. And then there's stuff like Overwatch, the game that just came out. A lot of the video game ones don't sell that well. Those now it's back ordered like 4 months. You can't find the Overwatch pops anywhere because it was just such a big. So it's really hard. Like you kind of have to under order on everything because like sometimes you just get left holding the bag, and it's better to sell out than to sit on them.
It's good to know though that you can order just the ones that you want because at working at Alternate Realities, it was always tough with DC Direct, for example, when we were ordering action
full
figures.
lines.
You had to buy the full line.
That's hard.
And, we were always, like if it was a line, like the Superman and Batman, like the popular ones would always sell, and then we'd be stuck with the less popular characters.
Yeah.
So at least you have that amount of flexibility. So you can order the regular ones from Funko. For ones that, either you sell out of, or if they're an exclusive or a variant, how do you go about getting those?
It's hard.
Because we're friends on Facebook.
Yeah.
I see you posting stuff. I know you hustle hard to get these things.
Yeah, we do. It's, depending on what it is, it's different. If it's a con exclusive, it's literally waiting online just like everybody else, or having a lot of people wait online. I'll tell you, back when Comic-Con was easier to get into, we used to buy tickets for people and be like, listen, here's the deal. We'll buy you a ticket, spend the first hour or two just helping us get the things, and then enjoy the rest of the day. And it's win-win. They get in for free, we get our stuff, and and that was also just as collectors personally before we even had the store too. It's impossible to get everything in one shot. So there's that. Those are the hardest ones to get. Stuff like stores, there's varying degrees, and I'm not even just talking personally. I know other stores that have similar things. There's some places that just have deals with guys that work in the store, like, hey, I'll give you stuff for like $5 when you come in. If when that shipment comes in, it never hits the floor. We don't really do stuff like that too much, but it does happen, and it's kind of the black eye of the industry, But I know some pretty big stores that like you'll never find anything in their area because they'll just pay off everybody, But sometimes it's just being good at getting things, like over the years, like I go to a lot of concerts and I always have really good tickets to concerts. I'm not like doing anything that anybody else can't do. It's just I've refined the process to the point where know how to do it, and so there's a lot of that goes into it. But we also have like a lot of our customers, like a good example, we have a guy who works for the MTA, and he, for the last 6 months, he would have to go to Plattsburgh because that's where they were building all the new buses, and twice a month he'd go up there. He'd have to inspect, making sure that they're doing everything properly, and all like down here the Walmarts never have anything, the Targets never have anything. Up there nobody buys them. It's a lower income area, they don't have as much disposable income, they kind of just sit on the shelves. He would come back with 20 of them at a time. And so, it's just a lot of having friends and helping other people, and they're happy to help you, and that's really what it comes down to. But every different pop is probably a unique process.
And I know, conventions are a big piece of it for you as well.
Yeah, that's something we've been ramping up more and more.
Yeah, and you bring a significant amount of your pops.
Yeah, and I joke, I don't like to take responsibility like, oh yeah, everybody's copying us. But when we started doing it, like our display, if you guys aren't familiar, like we were talking about the wall in the store, we pretty much replicate that at the shows. Like it's almost the same thing. We have a 20-foot wall, 10 feet high, pops floor to ceiling, and also organized exactly the same. So that really stands out. And I've noticed at other shows, now people are starting to do that, the other vendors and stuff like that. And they did not do that before. It takes us like 6 or 7 hours to set up at a convention. It's with 4 or 5 guys. It's an undertaking. But I think it pays off during the convention because the other guys, they might be out of there in 2 hours, but they're literally just throwing everything on the wall and like, this Yoda is on the upper left corner and Luke is on the bottom right, and like people don't even notice it. But if you come here and they're like, "Oh, I'm looking for Harry Potter," oh yeah, we have it's right here, and they're like, "Oh shit, they're all here," and they'll buy 5 at a time instead of 1, And I think that goes a long way.
Well, I commend you for the organizational system because it does make a difference as a consumer, and especially at conventions too, because there's a lot of people. You might be pressed for time, and it can make the buying process a lot more pleasant. We live in White Plains, so we go to City Center fairly often, and there's a Barnes and Noble in there.
Yeah.
So what's our experience there like?
So we really like to read, so we go into
We always joke about that. It's like we only go into the Barnes and Noble to look for pops or go to Starbucks.
Well, so we go into Barnes and Noble, and we go to, they have a 4x4 shelves, and we go around and we look, and we make sure to pull down every single one so we can see what's behind it, because it may not be, it's not like your system where it's the same, right behind it. But so we go through shelf by shelf every single one and have to look for things. At the beginning, we did pretty well with the Walking Dead ones. They would have a few at a time, but now recently we really haven't found anything there. But yeah, there's no organization, or it seems like someone has tried, but between the kids and there's
have you had the personal pleasure of trying to find them at an FYE?
No.
No. You want to talk about like Barnes and Noble times 1,000, because they stock a lot more, but you're talking like a row of 10 deep and 10 high, and they're not even on shelves, they're just on top of each other. Like if you want to check what the 5th one on the bottom is, you need to remove literally 150 pops. It is the most annoying experience in the world. So yeah, I totally, don't just sell the things. I'm a big collector myself, like we were talking about. So like I look for stuff myself, and Barnes and Noble has exclusives, things like that. So it is really annoying. Like you can walk in here, scan the wall. We have 10 times as many, and be out 5 times faster than you would at a Barnes & Noble with like 20 pops there, because it just takes forever. It's an awful experience. And the boxes get destroyed too, and so it's just bad. You've
mentioned now a few times, your history as a collector and the fact that you're into this stuff yourself. So, I'm curious, as someone who, because again, I spent a lot of time with Steve at Alternate Realities, and it's always interesting to me when people take their passion and they turn it into a career. So, what has the experience been like going from a collector to a store owner? And sort of how long have you been here now?
This is our 5th year.
Okay.
There's a lot went into it. So, I've been playing the card game Magic: The Gathering since I was about 10 or 11. So, 20 some odd years now. And I met a lot of my friends that I'm still very good friends with through that game, and we used to hang out at Dragon's Den when we were kids, which is, for those of you listening online, it was the like local store, where everybody came. They sold cards, comics, video games, everything. So we used to like live there, we'd be there from open to close and hang out. And we always joked, like, oh, we should open a store one day. We should, we're like 13 at the time, and it kind of, we went through our lives. We started getting jobs, we started doing things, and I opened the tattoo shop, so I had some experience with running a business, and it was always something that was in the back of our minds. And, we had always, as collectors, like I said before, stuff goes up, we sell it, we buy other stuff, we have to get hard to get stuff. We were kind of doing it, but for ourselves, not as like we weren't selling to the general public. So the skill set was there. It was just a matter of like, all right, let's finally do this. It's been 20 years, I guess it's time. And one day, I don't remember the exact catalyst for it, but we did. And, so that's kind of how it started. And, there's a lot, it is extremely time consuming. Like before we were on there, we were talking, we had a big set release this weekend, and we were here I started at midnight Thursday, and I think I was home for at most 3.5 hours for the 4 days following it. We were open 20 hours a day for 4 days straight. And, it's exhausting, and then, with other jobs and things like that, it's hard. So it's really a passion industry. And I'm sure, working, you're working off of the thinnest of margins, like anybody who wants to get rich in an industry like this, do almost anything else. Like I joke all the time, if you factor in the hours that you work in an industry, comics or anything, the guy that's frying your fries at McDonald's is making twice as much as you probably if you average the time. So you really have to love the stuff. You can't. It's a multifaceted thing, because like going back to saying like I need to order this 6 months in advance, like you need to know what you're ordering. Like if you're just like, oh, let me get 6 of everything, it's not going to work as a business. You need to know the product. So there's that part of it, and also you need to love it, because you're not getting rich off it. It's extremely time consuming. It's stressful, and there's just a million things you got to worry about. So it's in some ways it's enhanced my love of the things. In some ways it's diminished it. Everybody has that. Like let's say comic book guy from The Simpsons or something is like your stereotypical comic guy after 20 years. But, it's hard sometimes not to become that jaded guy. I have a firm policy where I'm like, somebody comes in and asks me the same question I've had a million times. The same thing at the tattoo shop. And I tell the guys this all the time because they'll be annoyed. Like, oh, I said this 20 times today. But it's the first time they're asking. And I try to always remind myself that. Like, don't be that asshole that is like, you don't know this? Like, blah, 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 blah. Be nice. Explain it to them. They don't know. And but it's very hard, that's like the most stereotypical the comic book guy thing. But that's what this industry kind of does to people. It's hard, It's just like you're like, oh, I worked 100 hours this week, to barely pay the bills, and blah 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 blah. And I had to deal with all these people that are miserable, So there's pluses and minuses to it all. And anybody who's working in the industry, I'm sure will have the same story, And luckily, I get to be in the same room as my friends, Sometimes it's slower and we're able to hang out and BS. Sometimes like I'm stocking the shelves, I'm doing orders, but I'm still in a room with people that I enjoy and my friends. And, we have tons of inside jokes and we're laughing and we're telling stories, and so that helps a lot too. If I was just stuck doing it in a cubicle, or whatever the equivalent would be for this, and like, it would be miserable, honestly. But getting to talk to even just random customers, they come in and like you get to, if some like BioShock is my favorite game. So when somebody comes in and they're like, oh, I want the BioShock pops, I'm like, you get to talk to them about it. Like, oh man, this is my favorite game too, and blah blah. And you don't get that in a lot of jobs. Like if you're working at like any other job almost, like you're just doing a job.
I said at the top that this is the largest selection of pops that I've seen. Is this, in fact, the largest selection? I mean,
I can't say. I mean, there's definitely people who probably have. I think we have one of the nicest displays around, and I'm sure there's. I know there's other people who have similar amounts as us. Some of them don't have stores. Like there's another vendor I know of. He has probably a similar, different amount of figure lines, but he just sells at shows. So as a store, I've only ever seen like one or two other places that are online, not even in person, like that are comparable. So we're up there. I can't take the crown and say like definitively we are the biggest and best selection, but we're definitely in the upper tier.
Yeah, Steph, what was your reaction the first time we came in here and saw the wall of pops?
I mean, I was amazed because it seemed like when we first started, it wasn't anything that I'd really heard about. Mm-hmm. So I thought it was a very niche kind of hobby, and then all of a sudden there's a whole wall of pops.
It's overwhelming, I guess, at first. For me, I know, like, if you ask me where a pop is on this 20-foot wall, I can point to it immediately. So it's not as overwhelming to me, but I think as, like, a consumer, maybe, like, you come and you're like, you're just blown back, So it's hard to look at it from the consumer's eye. So I'm always interested, and I always ask people, like, what could we do differently? What do you like? Blah, blah, because, like, you kind of get desensitized to it. So.
And, you mentioned before about curating the wall, and,
mm-hmm.
and I know a lot goes into it, and you said that the goal is to stock everything at least once.
Yeah, I try to. There's occasionally stuff that I don't order, like very, very, very rarely. Like I said, it's generally the movie ones because, it's just so easy to get burned on them. But for the most part, almost I'd say 98% of releases, I try to stock at least once. And if they do well, we'll try and restock them. Sometimes you can't even restock them. Like going back to the Overwatch ones, they came and Funko goes out of stock really fast. So like basically the way they work is they solicit to me, and they're getting better. It used to be like a 6-month window. Now it's sometimes just a matter of weeks. They'll say, these are for order, and you tell them I want this many. They come. If I go to reorder, it'll be 3 months before they have them in stock again. They're coming from China. They're getting boated in. It takes time going through customs. So you now more than ever, especially with all these places trying to order them, I need to like really think about, and we're talking about growing pains in a rough one ourselves because we're starting to do more shows. So like in the past, if 12 of them would have lasted us no problem for our local customer base, we just did a show, and if we had 200 Winter Soldiers, we probably would have sold 200 Winter Soldiers, and we had 2 when we got there because they were back ordered. And so I'm trying to order now with that convention mindset, and it's hard because it's really trying to strike a balance because we don't know when some of these are going to come. So, in August we have 4 conventions in 4 weeks, but if there's 2 months where we don't have them and I have 200 of this pop here, I can't even store them in the back room, so it's hard, but we do try to have everything. It's something we pride ourselves on.
Yeah. Well, from what we can see, you've done a fantastic job.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Chris, I have to confess, we may have come up with a nickname. I hope you take it with the spirit in which it is intended.
Sure, it's not the worst one.
Your name is Chris Wilcock. We do call you Will Pop.
Will Pop.
Sure, that can't be the first time you've heard that.
It is.
It is?
It is. He calls me lots of things, but they're not safe for the air. But I was pointing to one of our employees. That's actually the first time. I'm sure I'm going to hear it a lot now. Thanks.
And I'll give you this one, actually, for marketing purposes. I'll give you this one for free. You can use King of Pops.
That's a good one. I do like Michael Jackson.
Yeah. King of Pops will probably be the title of this episode.
That's awesome.
I think.
Hopefully we'll do something with you guys again in the future because I love talking about this type of stuff. Not just Pops, just things in general. So
yeah, no, that would be great. And anyone out there who has any interest in this, whether Pops, specifically, or gaming, anything like that, please check out Undiscovered Realm. If you can come to the store, great. If not, and you guys are online as well.
undiscoveredrealm.com, and Facebook/Undiscovered Realm. We're on everything. Instagram.
Any tattoo needs as well. Chris has you covered there too.
Yeah.
And I want to take the opportunity to thank you as well. You allowed me the opportunity to do a live episode of this podcast at your comic convention.
No, it was awesome. I'm glad you guys were able to do it.
Well, we had a great time. It was fun doing the podcast with an audience. We had a nice turnout. People seemed into it. Like it was really.
No, that's great.
It was a lot of fun. It was different doing it with people there.
Yeah. No, it's definitely a different dynamic. That's awesome, though.
Every other episode has been like this, where it's just a few of us in a room. Which is great, but being able to kind of feed off of the audience, you hear them laugh, and it's like, it's really cool.
I guess I have one last question.
Yeah, sure. What's up?
So, what is the most you've ever sold a pop for?
Probably the green. I think it's Green Arrow, right? Yeah, Green Arrow. He was about 700. That's the one that Delando had that he threw the box away for. We had a different one. And actually, his roommate bought it because he had a huge pop collection. So it was really funny. There's 2 of them in the house. It was like one of the grails, that we just sold. We had a metallic Deadpool. We sold for $500 over the weekend. Stuff like that, probably in that range. We had the Vegetas that I was talking about, but we sold them for about $400 like 3 months ago, and now they're $1,000. So we've had stuff come through our hands that is now like insanely priced. But yeah, probably 700 would be our personal best, and that's like somewhat of the upper end,
How much do you think we'll ever spend on a single pop?
$10.99. No.
You'll get there.
It depends.
I feel
it
like
all depends.
100 or less is like the ceiling for most people. There's a ton of these groups online, and I'm in them, and people use the term grail for like the ones like they really want. And like, it's really funny to see the difference because some people are like, oh, this pop's $25. I'm never going to be able to get it. And then there's people that are like, this $1,000 one, no problem, buying it tonight. So it's interesting to see, the difference. But that just goes to show that all walks of life and economic status and everything are in the industry, So.
Well, I want to thank both of my guests. Stephanie, thank you for participating today. Chris, thank you so much for joining the My Comic Shop History crew and for having us here at your store to record today.
Super fun.
I hope our listeners enjoyed this deep dive into the world of pop collecting. Please keep tuning into future episodes. And until then, don't be a flat squirrel. My Comic Shop History is a Flat Squirrel production. Please visit flatsquirrelproductions.com to explore my other projects, including My Comic Shop documentary, By Spoon, The Jay Mizell Story, and the forthcoming Wacky Man, The Rise of a Puppeteer. Be sure to subscribe to My Comic Shop History on iTunes and catch up on Season 1. Like My Comic Shop History on Facebook and follow me on Twitter at DesiWestside. Likes, ratings, and reviews are always greatly appreciated. Thank you for listening and continuing to support this show.